Hi everybody, this is my first time trying this, so stay with me, but I'm going to try to give you the answers for math boxes on page 228, and I'm going to go through them. I'll try to slow down, and I'll try to give you some hints and tips as I go through it. So you are welcome to, stop the video, pause the video, replay the video, because it's nice because it is a video. So I'm going to go through each one at a time, and then hopefully you find this helpful. So number one said to estimate the quotient for each problem. So basically you are getting an estimate for the answer. You're not actually solving these problems. So remember, when we do dividing, you want to change the numbers to numbers that you can divide in your head. So looking at number one, I'm going to change number 9 to 10, and then whatever this number is going to be, it has to be close to 30 and 6/10, but it has to also be a multiple of 10. So the closest multiple of 10 to this is 30. So my new problem would be 30 divided by 10, which equals 3. So I know that the answer is going to be close to 3. So when I look at the choices for number one, the closest choice to the answer of 3 would be 3 4/100. So that should have been your answer to number one. Okay, this is your estimate, and this is the correct answer. But we can get pretty close to it by using our estimate. All right, moving on to letter B. So again, you have some numbers, and you're going to change them to numbers that you can do in your head or fairly easily. So I'm just going to wipe these off and then go on to, let's see, 506.9, and this problem is multiplication. So I can change these numbers to whatever numbers I want to that are close to the original numbers. So I'm going to for sure change this one to just 1, because anything times 1 is 1. So I can even just keep this as it is. So 506.9 times 1 is going to be 506 9/10. So I look at my choices, and one of the choices that's closest to 506 9/10 would be 608 28/100. So again, this is the correct answer if you actually were to do this, but I could get a pretty close estimate in my head and know that that is the correct answer. All right, moving on. Letter C is dividing. Probably the toughest one of this set. And I'm running out of room. 238. All right, so again, first we're going to change this number. Okay, so I'm just going to change it to 200. So 200, and then whatever number I change this to has to be a multiple of 200. So I'm going to use 1,000. So my new problem is 1,000 divided by 200. Remember what the rule is when you are dividing. You do the basic fact first. 10 divided by 2 equals 5. And then you do your zero trick. So you have 2 zeros there and 2 zeros there. You don't add them, you subtract them. So 2 take away 2 is 0. So you don't need any zeros in your answer. So your final answer is 5. So now looking at your choices, the closest choice to 5 would be 4. So that is actually the correct answer is 4, but we got pretty close to it by doing our estimate. All right, that was number 1. Moving on to number 2. So you have a grid, and it says use the area model to help you solve 2/3 times 5/6. So what I like to do first is I always like to just solve the problem, because I know how to multiply fractions. When you multiply fractions, you're doing numerator times numerator and denominator times denominator. So when I do that, I get 10/18. So first, I know that there's going to be 18 squares and 10 of them are going to be colored in. So if that's not what it looks like at the end, I know that I did it incorrectly. So here is what the grid looks like. You have 6 sections going left to right, and then you have 3 going top to bottom. So when I do this, this would be 1/3, this would be 2/3. So I know that I'm going to shade in these for 2/3. And then I have 1/6, 2/6, 3/6. Sorry if you can't see these at the bottom. And 5/6. I'll try to tilt it up as best as I can. I'm going to shade in 5/6 right here. And these squares that got double shaded in are the ones that end up being the answer, which ends up being 10 squares. And if you noticed, we can reduce this. So both of these have a factor of 2, and it can be reduced to 5/9 if you did that. Nice job if you did the reducing to 5/9. All right, moving on to number 3. All right, I hope that everybody is doing well so far with your math boxes. Eloise bought $79.84 worth of groceries. What was her change if she paid with a $100 bill? So your number model should be 100, take away 79 and 84 equals C for change, or an unknown letter of your choice. Now when I get my answer, I'm going to have to line up the decimal points. But oh no, 100 does not have a decimal point. So I'm going to write 100 as 100.00, and you'll see why in just a second. Then I'm going to put 79.84 here. I added 2 zeros at the end so they would line up with the other 2 numbers. Okay, and now you have some crazy borrowing going on. So 0 can't take away 4. So you have to borrow from that 0. And you have to keep borrowing all the way from the 1. So this becomes a 10, and then you have to borrow from it. This becomes a 10, and then you have to borrow from that. This becomes a 10, and you have to borrow from that. This one is the only one that gets to end up actually being a 10. So we have 16 cents. And then you have $20. So $20.16. Are there other strategies to do this subtraction? Sure. Like I would rather do $99.99. Then you won't have all of that crazy borrowing to do. You'll still get the same answer, but it's a little bit different. So final answer is $20.16. All right, moving on to number 4. So we have 1/3 divided by 9. A lot of you are still getting confused with these problems. Remember, if you have dividing and you are doing either a fraction or a whole number, whatever you start with is what you're going to end up with when you are dividing. Okay, so if I start with a fraction, I'm going to end with a fraction. Okay, and how I can draw this is if I have, let's pretend this is my airhead bar. If I have 1/3 of an airhead bar and I cut that 1/3 into 9 pieces, how many, or what is the fractional amount that everybody is going to get? It would be this piece right here. And that ends up being 1/27. Okay, I can also look at the 3 and the 9 and multiply those together, and that's my denominator, and 1 is going to be my answer because it's a unit fraction. Okay, if you start with a unit fraction, you're going to end with a unit fraction. So hopefully you did well on that one. If you didn't do it, it's been a while since we've talked about these, and hopefully our little talk today will help remind you about how to do those. All right, number 5. You were explaining how you estimated and chose a reasonable answer in problem 1B. So 1B was when we multiplied, and we multiplied that decimal times that decimal. So for your explanations, you should have told me how you changed, what you changed that number to, and what you changed that number to, and how you knew what the answer was in your head. Because the goal is to get an answer in your head.
Mama, Lali's changing obstacles.
So if I were to explain it, I would have said that I changed 500. I kept 506.9 the same, and I changed 1.2 to 1, and I knew that anything times 1 was that number, so I knew that the answer had to be close to 506 and 9/10. And there's Charlie. So if you guys have any questions with these math boxes, let me know. But and then if you didn't get anything, stop, go back, check it over. But the goal is to keep up, because these are review, so it's important that we know these skills moving forward. Thanks for watching, and I will be back again with the next page for math boxes.